welcome to another video. In this one I'm going to show you how we can install the Arnold render engine here on Gaffer for the Mac. Now first of all, if I just hit the tab key within my node graph here in Gaffer, you'll see that I already have Arnold available in terms of its node set, and that's because I've already gone ahead and installed it, and so of course now I can use it. And you'll also see that I have Cycles here available. That's also a render engine that we have available to us. We have this one available because it comes pre-installed with Gaffer out of the box. Now, Cycles is a great option too. I have quite a bit of experience for it using it with Blender, so if you can't get Arnold, I would recommend trying out Cycles for sure. And now if I click on the interactive render node though, you'll see that I also have Arnold available here within my renderer drop down, and so I've selected that. That's how I've done this render up here. And I can also select 3D Delight if that's how you say it, and Cycles as well. Now I have not used 3D Delight. It's probably pretty good too, I'd imagine. So you can also try that, and then you also have Cycles there. You'll also see here that I have Arnold. So now I'm going to show you how we can actually go about installing that. Now first we're going to actually need to download the Arnold SDK off of Autodesk's website, but first let's go to the actual release page for this version of Gaffer that I have downloaded. Alright, so here I am in Chrome, and this is the actual release version of Gaffer that I downloaded for the Mac. Now I went over this previously in my last video when I talked about how to actually install Gaffer here on the Mac, and so this is that same version. Now again, this was released March 11th, 2025, so hopefully there will be a new one that will be released soon, whether it's by the same person here on GitHub or someone else, or ideally by Gaffer HQ themselves as an official release. That would be the best. But nonetheless, you'll see here, this version was specifically created for 7.3.7.0. I had previously accidentally downloaded a couple other versions of Arnold and tried to get them working with Gaffer, but they just would not work. Either the node set would not load, I would not be able to select it as my renderer, and it just flat out would not be available to me. Or I'd be able to load the node set as well as select it as my render engine, but then it would error out at render time. So you do need this specific version. All right, now that we have clarified that, let's go to the Autodesk Arnold website. All right, here we are on the Arnold page within the Autodesk website. Now, if you scroll down, you'll actually be able to download a free trial. That probably is the most recent version of Arnold though. And since we need a specific version, that might not work. You can feel free to test that out, but otherwise it might not work for you. Otherwise, you'd have to subscribe, which would be unfortunate because it costs a decent amount. But you can do that, or if you're a student, you can also download it that way. In any case, in order to actually download the version we need, you can just click the support drop-down in the top menu and then go to downloads and then click on download your software. From there, we can go down to this Arnold section and then click on view details. Next, we need to navigate to that specific SDK version of Arnold that we need to download. So as you can see, the 2026 versions are 7.4 versions. So let's navigate to the 2025 versions. And right away, we can see that 7.3.7.0 mouthful of a version right here. And we can then just go ahead and give it a download. That will then download to your, you guessed it, your downloads directory likely. And from there, we can go ahead and unzip the file. So let's jump on over to the Finder next. All right, here we are in the Finder. I have my downloads directory open as well as my applications directory. Now, the reason for that is because you'll see I've already gone ahead and unzipped that file that was downloaded from the Arnold website. Now, what we'll want to do then is something similar to what I did in my last video when I talked about how to install Gaffer on the Mac. We kind of need to give Arnold here now a more or less permanent home within that applications directory. So what we need to do is then drag that down into that directory, and there we go. So next what we're going to want to do is rename this folder just to give it a little bit more of a clear name. So let's just name it Arnold SDK 7.3.7.0. There we go. And that's it. So next we can just jump into the terminal from here. So I'm just going to close out that downloads window, move that up a bit. And now we're just going to modify that .zshrc file, that kind of framework or engine that we had set up in that previous video, if you had watched that when I talked about, again, how to install Gaffer on the Mac. So we're just going to update that with various Arnold specifications so that Gaffer will know where Arnold lives and so that we can effectively use it within Gaffer. All right, so I just brought up a terminal window here. Now I'm just going to type in nano and then ~/.zshrc once again. And again, that's going to open up that nano text editor within the terminal here. You can't update this within any text editor you'd like, but this is easy enough. So I'm just going to hit enter. That'll bring us into there. And now if you recall, again, by following along with the last video, if that is in fact how you ended up installing your Gaffer for the Mac, then we would have ended up with these two lines of code here where we established that environment variable pointing the system to where Gaffer lives. And then also we had gone and created that alias so that we can alternatively open up Gaffer via the terminal as well. Now we're going to add a few more lines of code here to get Arnold up and running. So I'm just going to clear out these lines and then paste in that code. So I'm just going to hit Control X and get that out of there. I actually hit Control K to remove that, not Control X. Control X would actually cause you to exit out of the nano editor. But 1 second, I'm just going to paste in that code. All right, here's the code. So now I've just added this comment at the top. This just stipulates, hey, this stuff happening under these comments is specifically for our Gaffer and Arnold configuration within this zshrc file, just to kind of make it crystal clear for us. And then we have a comment here at the top. Now this is just saying that everything below this comment then is creating those environment variables, right? Those application paths effectively for both Arnold as well as Gaffer. Now again, at the end of the last video on how to install Gaffer, and based off what we were just looking at, what we had previously had in here was just the Gaffer environment variable here. So we had this line right there, and then we also had that Gaffer alias that we had created. So now we are adding everything in between effectively, all of this stuff, right? So we are now creating an environment variable for Arnold itself. And so we're telling the system now where Arnold lives. And this middle section of code right here is acting kind of like the bridges. They tell Gaffer where to find Arnold's Python scripts and tell macOS where the Arnold code actually lives. And then this one is maybe the most important one. What it's doing is it's pointing to a specific translator inside of Gaffer that allows it to talk to Arnold. Without this, Arnold won't actually show up. And then again, finally, we have the alias there, which we just went over, and that was already there. And so once you have this code in your kind of now updated zshrc file, you can just go Control O to write it to disk. Once again, hit enter to confirm that, and then Control X to exit out of it. Now at that point, you should be able to open up Gaffer. To play it safe, I'd probably do a source ~/.zshrc, hit enter, and that'll just make sure that file is refreshed, at least within the terminal. I don't know 100% if you need to do that since we're not launching it directly from this terminal. We would just be using that app icon that I had created previously, but nonetheless, better to be safe than sorry. So now I'm actually going to navigate to that app icon. All right, here it is within my applications directory, and so now we can just open it up. And there it is. So now I'm just going to go full screen with that and hit tab. And of course, there we go. We can see Arnold available to us. And if we created an interactive render node, we could select it from this drop down. And there we go. That's how you install Arnold for Gaffer on the Mac. Done and done. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, please feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.